Hey, thanks for clicking on the video. Today I wanted to talk about easily one of the best builds in the entire game, but one that you rarely see, as this is the ultimate support build, and one that I'll be taking into the contest mode dungeons that should be available right now for anybody to play, as well as the next day 1 raid race in Edge of Fate. If you're a warlock who wants to support your fire team as best as they can, keep everybody alive and yourself, then this is the build for you. I do want to mention that this isn't a solo build, so if you take this into a GM or something similar, you're going to want to coordinate with your team because this build doesn't necessarily kill things really quickly. It is very much just about keeping things alive. Not to say that your weapons and abilities can make up for that. Also, before we actually do break down the build, there are timestamps and a dim link down below for your convenience. Also, if you enjoy this video and you want to see more of my builds or my guides or weapon reviews, a subscription would be greatly appreciated. And if you're returning and you want to join the community, there's also a Discord server link below, which I'd love to see you there. So now getting started, this build only makes use of a single exotic, which isn't our weapon. It's the exotic helmet Speaker's Sight. This helmet's perk reads, healing grenades spawn a restorative turret. Healing allies occasionally spawns an orb of power. Now looking at the function of this turret, it overwrites our healing grenade, which at base is this floating consumable that when picked up gives restoration ×1 or cure and restoration if it hits the ground near you. When we have Speaker's Sight equipped, this becomes the restorative turret that will cure when it hits the ground and then begin to shoot out these seekers every 3 seconds, lasting for 15 seconds. This is also where an important thing to note comes in though. The turret will not shoot if everyone on the fire team is at full health. Really, it's not that bad because as soon as someone takes a little bit of damage, it starts to shoot, but do keep this in mind when using this exotic. Now, as for when one of these seekers hits an ally or yourself, it will apply cure and restoration, effectively being like you just got hit directly by a base healing grenade every time a seeker hits you. Now, you can also technically increase how much seekers heal for, but that comes with a massive caveat, which we'll talk about when we look at our subclass. As for the other function of Speaker's Sight, when you heal any amount of health on an ally from any method, you will spawn an orb of power on them. This is really great because healing grenades can't get kills and thus can't normally make orbs. You wouldn't expect it, but this tiny thing actually makes this build a lot better. Now, we want to move straight into the subclass to see the optimization of this exotic helmet. Ability-wise, you can run either Well or Song of Flame. 9 times out of 10 though, if you're running through the content that begets this build, Well of Radiance is the super you're going to be on. Having plus 25% damage and a ton of survivability is just too good for having to take down a boss. Our class ability is going to be Phoenix Dive as a means for instant health without needing a grenade charge. You can dive to heal yourselves or allies, and it also has the shortest cooldown. Our melee can be either Incinerator Snap or Celestial Fire, but I recommend the latter because it has infinite range. This is important for one of our fragments. Then for our grenade, as you already know, it's going to be Healing Grenade. And then onto our aspects, these actually aren't what you would first think. The first aspect is Hellion. This will summon a solar buddy when we use our class ability. In game, we can see this activating as soon as we Phoenix Dive, and it does a good amount of damage as well as causing an ignition in just 4 shots. This is something that adds a lot of passive lethality to us, which makes up for a lot of investment on the survivability side of things. And the second aspect back in the subclass is Icarus Dash. This allows us to, well, dash in the air. It also gives us cure for multi-kills while airborne, but that doesn't really happen often. This aspect is chosen for the true indie game settings. How many times have you died because some cringe enemy threw a slowing stasis field or witch cloud on you and you just couldn't get away? In those circumstances, Icarus Dash will absolutely save your life. Not to mention it allows you to just move faster, which is important for things like raids and dungeons with mechanics. Now, some of you might be asking, why not Touch of Flame? And this is what I was alluding to earlier. In this clip, my healing turret is giving me cure and restoration ×2 because I have Touch of Flame equipped. Now that is good, that's a lot more healing, but this build is about keeping everyone alive. And here in this clip, my friend Llama has Touch of Flame and throws down his turret, and as you can see, we only get ×1. So if it doesn't benefit allies, I would actually rather run Icarus Dash for that utility over better self-heals, which isn't really an issue with this build. So moving on from aspects, now we're at the part where this build goes pretty nuts, and that's with our fragments. The main one being Ember of Benevolence. When we apply any of these buffs to our allies, we get increased ability regen. In game, we can see that after throwing my turret, I get back another turret before the other one is even gone. This single fragment massively increases our ability uptime. and you will 100% notice it while you play with this build. As for our other fragments, Ember of Singeing gives us our class ability back when we scorch enemies, which is effectively an infinite loop of spawning Hellion because Hellion scorches. Then we have Ember of Solace, so Radiant and Restoration lasts longer on us. This is especially nice for Radiant timers. And then to get Radiant, Ember of Torches, so our powered melees make us so, along with allies. And this is why I recommended Celestial Fire out of our 2 melees. Let's say Well of Radiance runs out and you're a mile away from a boss using Queenbreaker. Celestial Fire will allow you to make yourself and all your teammates nearby radiant for that plus 20% damage even when your super ends. It is very good and very useful. But now with our subclass filled out, we have weapons. Like I said in the beginning, there are no exotics necessary, but there is a weapon that feels pretty exotic, that being No Hesitation. For this build, I used it with the perks Physic and Incandescent. Physic makes it so when you heal allies, you give yourself and them restoration, rather than you just giving them restoration. Then Incandescent helps with some ad clear, but to be honest, this weapon exists only to heal. If you're shooting enemies with this gun, you're in the trenches. Primarily for me, it just works as a fantastic way to give myself restoration and heal teammates without having to use an ability, which thus also procs Benevolence, so it gives us abilities back. As for the other weapons, in the kinetic slot, I'm either running Tanasha's Mastery or Rake Angle. The main benefit from both being Chill Clip for stunning overloads and unstops and general crowd control. I default to Tanasha's, but if I really need to stay alive, Rake Angle is the play. The B-roll you've been seeing today in this video is from minus 75 master raids, which means even the weakest enemies can nuke you in the blink of an eye. And normally here, I would opt for a glaive. But if I can get away with it, again, I will use the rocket sidearm. And then your heavy can be anything. This build is very geared towards raids and dungeons, so most times your heavy slot is where your exotic comes into play, be it Grand Overture or Queenbreaker. I would also like to add at the end here, the build can genuinely just be run with any weapons you wish. It's just that the healing auto and stasis weapons makes a very good combo. Granted, they are kind of overkill for most things in the game, so just use whatever you want and make use of your abilities to give you your abilities back. Now, weapons and subclass aside, we have armor stats and mods. Stats are pretty standard, with resilience being priority number 1, then discipline, then recovery. For our mods, the helmet has a stasis siphon and a solar siphon for orbs from weapons, and a radiant light, so whenever we cast our super, our teammates get an armor charge. This is very good for DPS. On the arms, we run an impact induction for a little bit of grenade energy back on melee damage, and a heavy-handed or an orb if we score melee kills. Chest is reserved for resists. Legs have an innervation for some grenade energy on orb pickup, a recuperation for instant health on orb pickup, and a stasis scavenger because you will mainly be using a stasis special weapon. And then class is special finisher, powerful attraction, and proximity ward to keep you alive while you're doing those finishers. And now for the artifact, you actually don't need anything. This build is future-proofed for the Edge of Fate and doesn't rely on a single seasonal perk. Of course, don't stop using anything that might benefit you, like No Bell or Limit Break, but if you were curious, there's just nothing here. And now finally, we have the gameplay loop. It all depends on keeping an eye on the team. Most engagements are going to start with not much. Use your glaive or rocket sidearm to clear ads and pop your Hellion to add to your damage output. At any point you or an ally begins to take damage, throw down a healing turret. Ember of Benevolence will ensure you get that back in time for your next one. Continue to slay out, and remember you can use your melee to make your team radiant and keep popping Hellion. If someone is ever in a real pickle or you know they're going to do something dangerous like taking boss aggro, combo a healing turret and your healing auto to keep them alive. If you're ever in danger, a turret for yourself, a Phoenix Dive, or even using an ally to give yourself restoration from the healing auto is going to be your way out. Remember to use Icarus Dash to avoid any hotspots, and ultimately, you should find yourself at some type of boss or really high health target where you'll drop your well to deal damage. In high-end content, combo Well of Radiance with a healing turret for max survivability because that healing does stack. Then if it's a super long damage phase, make use of your melee to keep the team buffed with Radiant and your turret to keep them alive even after well is gone. After this point, rinse and repeat being the thankless healer for your team and likely the only reason you guys beat whatever you're doing. And while most people won't say thanks, I appreciate you. And I think that's everything I wanted to say. Thank you so much for getting this far into the video. Your viewership means a ton. Thank you guys for 15,000 subscribers. And again, if you want to be more involved in the community, I do have a Discord link below. If you want to support me and support the channel, a like, a comment, a subscription goes a very long way. If you want to support me and support the channel, but you can't think of a comment down below, support build. And with that, as usual, I hope you are having a great day, and I hope to see you around.